We're unmuted.
We are unmuted.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Dover Select Board meeting for Tuesday, September 6th at 6:30 p.m. Because we have some faces that I don't know, I'd like to just go over the rules of the meeting. I recognize people, so if you want to say something, please raise your hand, state your name for the minutes, and then speak, and then do not speak again until, because all comments go through me. So don't speak again until you're recognized again. Okay, does everybody understand that?
Just questions should be directed to the board, not to another person in the room.
Thank you. Okay, saying that, do we have any public comments tonight? I have something that I guess was supposed to be on the agenda tonight that we're going to read in as public comment from SOBTA. Oh. I'll start. The Ridge Trail landowner and the USFS has asked SOBTA to build an RFP with review by VIMBA. SOBTA is currently writing the RFP. This refers to the Ridge Trail project, following the USFS recommended template. SOBTA and USFS will discuss and review the draft at an upcoming meeting. Tom Oakley, the Ridge Project Chair of SOBTA, has reached out to the selectman, Joe Mahan, to open a line of communication. Minor milestones will be regularly communicated to the selectmen. Our next milestone will be communicated to the select board in entirety. That's it. So that was in response to getting our regular updates concerning the Ridge Trail backcountry skiing project. Any questions about that? Okay. Any other public comments? Okay, so are there any other people? Okay. Joe is here. Okay. We're going to move over to the police department. First order of business is dispatching presentation from the Windham County Sheriff, Mark Anderson. And the regional dispatch support letter sent 8/26/22.
Oh, yeah, you're leading. We could bring it up here and open it in your seating.
We could put another row. Are there more in right in there? Okay. I am ready, Randy.
You're leaning on the elevator.
Actually,
That's gonna be, that's the police.
that's the sheriff and the police chief. They have, those are their seats. Yeah.
You can have my seat, that's okay.
You know, we have a lot of people. This one's gonna get really hot. Okay.
Rory, you're leaning.
All right, everybody, we need to get settled. We have a really, really long agenda tonight, so I hope that everybody's ready for a long ride here and get settled, and we're gonna go forward. So welcome.
Thank you.
So
Mark
this is Sheriff, Windham County Sheriff Mark Anderson. I've asked him to come and speak on behalf of the dispatching. Since we had Chief Morano here a couple of weeks ago. So Sheriff Anderson's here to talk about it as well.
Thank you for your time. I'm not used to having this much of a presence at a select board meeting, so I imagine it's all for me, but to be serious, I know we have a lot of stuff going on. I wanted to create a proposal for the select board. In fact, this has been a discussion that Chief Johnson and I have had for probably better part of 5 or 6 years. In regards to how could the sheriff's office support Dover PD in a way that was supportive to the community. So it's not a new idea for us. What is new is the circumstances for which we have arrived at this discussion. And so I thought it was probably more appropriate for me to come in and talk about those things rather than make a pitch, because the reality is I don't have a pitch to give you. The cart's ahead of a horse on this. I listened to the comments when Chief Morano came in from the select board, and I mean, everyone's saying it. So there's no surprise that this is a result of a variety of different factors that are very complex. But it's also a result of a conversation that's been ongoing for 70 years. This has been studied. Concept of regionalization of dispatching has been studied for over 70 years. We're here today, so we can point fingers at who's to blame. But at the end of the day, it's been many administrations, many legislatures, many local representatives, all having a voice in this that has brought us forward in those 70 years. So the reality is that there's 3 conversations that are ongoing in parallel. First off is how we dispatch for ourselves currently. We can say the system's broken. Why is it broken? If I call 911 with an emergency right now, I can hit anywhere between 1 and 5 different dispatches before services are actually dispatched. It's not like on TV where they just answer the phone and they're swinging in the windows in 30 seconds. Second conversation is around, basically it's an equity conversation. This is usually where it gets gummed up within the political realms. We have some towns who pay for dispatching services, some towns who don't. So Dover PD right now receives dispatching services for free. Dover Fire Department does not. And so with West Dover and East Dover, there's an assessment paid to Southwest Mutual Aid, where that is not the same for fire departments in Rutland County who do not pay for dispatching. And so why is Windham County paying for it and Rutland County is not? And that's throughout the state. I mean, probably, I don't have an exact number, but let's say that's a 50% problem. And so when we have that kind of a ratio in the legislature, we're going to see some fighting, because communities who receive services without having to pay for it are very happy with that arrangement. Communities that are paying for it are very unhappy. So the third thing is a more acute situation, which is the Department of Public Safety recently announced that they were not capable of providing dispatching services anymore. The Commissioner of Public Safety over the last year roughly has been talking about their staffing situation. They used to have 4 dispatch centers around the state. They reduced that down to 2, thinking that there would be cost savings to the state. And the reality is that they increased the volume inside the dispatch centers in Westminster and the dispatch center in Williston. But they have lost the staffing population that they used to have access to, having locations in 4 parts of the state. At one point, I believe they were operating around like a 60% staffing, which when you're talking about dispatching over 100 organizations, they were starting to run into problems. And so here we are today. The governor recommended in this budget $11 million to be made available for establishing regionalized dispatch centers. The Department of Public Safety's testimony with the legislature was to discuss the necessity of allowing money to be spent immediately, because they were not even sure they could continue providing dispatching services to Dover Police Department. And I believe that in some points, the Dover Police Department was notified that they have to make alternative arrangements, and basically they're going to have a voicemail to forward calls to. So why is there $11 million available to set up regional dispatch centers? What are we doing with $11 million? Well, about 6 of it's been made available for the Department of Public Safety to issue out for these regional dispatch centers, with roughly 5 of it held in reserve of a study that's pending, because we've only done 70 years worth before. The hard part with this is that we don't have the results of the study, and the grant period has already closed. And so agencies such as Wilmington PD, such as mine, the Rutland County Sheriff, and numerous agencies around the state are applying for something that we don't know how it's going to be funded. We don't know how it's going to be mandated, used, trained. We don't know any of these answers. And so for me to come here and say, here's my proposal for the town of Dover, I thought was a waste of your time. And so that's why I wanted to come in and give a little education on some of the background of what's going on. And some ideas of ways we could move forward. I'm happy to go in depth on this as you want. I know you have a busy meeting tonight. And I don't think we need to yet, but I would like to prepare a proposal for the select board to consider in one of many different venues. One could be just a contractual relationship. If the Department of Public Safety says we're done and we're not paying for it anymore. One could be as part of a regional initiative. It would come with a governance structure as well as a funding model so that there's equity for the services who receive dispatching services, but also some of the fairness to the people paying the bill. And then the third is to talk about what's the best way we can actually serve the public. And we'll ignore the governance conversation, we'll ignore the funding conversation. But really what we're going to do is say, how can we do this better? We talked about having a broken mental health system and how police are picking up the ball. Could we integrate mental health providers in our dispatch center so they could be the ones intervening in a call where we would normally be sending a police officer, maybe getting crisis services in room, maybe triaging a situation saying this will be triggered by a law enforcement presence. Whereas right now, people like myself, Chief Johnson, are left to make those calls. Our officers are left to make those calls. Could we get a suicide hotline integrated? Could we have a EMT or a paramedic who is also there so that they can actually provide on the phone EMS instruction to a person while an ambulance is responding? I've heard from many people around Windham County about the delays when they have called for an ambulance. It could take 30 minutes, it could take an hour, and there's reasons for that as well, but we're used to rolling. So my goal is how do we provide that service to the public when we do it in a way that is economically feasible for the state and acknowledges that we have to be somewhat resourceful and creative ways at times. That's kind of my elevator pitch. I'm happy to dive into this. I'm actually on the legislative study. I've talked with Representative Sibilia about this for probably about the last 2 years now. There's some serious issues around how we got here, the process or lack thereof in which we got here, which I think she can probably discuss better than I can. But at the end of the day, we're kind of looking at $11 million pot of money and saying, if we don't apply, we're left out. And we're potentially in the same position as needing to figure out what we do with our dispatch, and Windham County's been left out for some time.
And so you have applied for the grant,
I have.
okay? And did you get a letter in support from Chief Johnson?
I received a letter in support from Chief Johnson and Rich. Chief Warner.
Okay.
In addition to I think it's 13 agencies who are supporting our initiative right now in Southern Vermont.
Question, Dan.
Are you initially looking for a plan that encompasses all of Windham County instead of these little bunches of things? We have one control center.
So what my philosophy would be, I call it one emergency, one center. And so for the town of Brattleboro, they have fire, EMS, and police dispatch out of their police department, and it works. They communicate in the same facility and they send the responders from the same facility. So my vision would not include Brattleboro because they're self-sufficient on their own. But in that same regard, could it? Would the town have a desire to transition to something like that? And so these are decisions where we need to have process, we need to have community input. I already have roughly a countywide radio network, and the infrastructure is really the critical piece we rarely talk about. But the radio towers, the backhauls, the engineering that goes into all of that, we have that in existence. And so our grant, what we did was build it in with the intention of being able to support every town in Windham County, but the possibility that they do find their own means. There's currently a working mutual aid system through Southwest Mutual Aid for fire and EMS, but they won't accept law enforcement. And so what we find, there's an incident in Wardsboro, the homicide that just occurred. We had EMS on scene who couldn't communicate with the state police who were chasing the person through the woods near their staging ambulance. That's bad. So I want to get rid of those problems. And if the town of Dover said we want to go with regional dispatch X, Y, or Z, that's fine. I don't think it should be identity necessarily, but rather what works best for the community. So I understood Chief Morano was going to be applying for the grant as well and trying to set up a Deerfield Valley region. That would be fine. In fact, what I would be looking to do is create a network that is supportive to it. So if an event like Irene happens or COVID happens and we lose the dispatch center, we have interoperability. One of the frustrations I had during COVID, I talked to the chief of police in Springfield. I said, if my dispatchers get sick and I have to shut down, can we go through you? He said, as long as we can do the same for you. Our technology wouldn't work together. So we have willing parties that couldn't do what they needed if the worst happened.
So it sounds like the technology upgrade is absolutely needed in terms of communication. Our biggest concern, as most concern, is the cost shifts. And the proposal from Wilmington actually had some rough numbers in it that were pretty scary. So that's why we want to sign on to the best program if we have to at the best price. And those are the things we're going to weigh when proposals are actually more concrete. So.
And just to offer a rough estimate, and I can do this just because I currently run a contracting model at dispatch for Bells Falls PD as well as the Bennington County Sheriff. For the town of Dover, we're going to be under $100,000. Now, the question is, are we doing the police department? Are we doing the fire department? Are we doing Deerfield Valley Ambulance? What's needed to do those things? But at the end of the day, under the contract model, it would be under $100,000. Part of the study and part of the legislature's work this next session, I assume, will be to finalize what the funding models are. If this were me walking in, king of the world, able to say what I think should happen, the state of Vermont currently provides a service for X. It's going to cost Y to have these centers. X minus Y equals the state budget, and then the state will just fund out the regional dispatches, acknowledging it's a state responsibility. But that's just Mark. Mark doesn't get to make that choice. I think that having fire departments who have to raise funds by having bake sales, fundraising, golf tournaments, and a variety of other things, while great for community, that's not the way that we prevent homes from burning down. I mean, Dover currently pays roughly $60,000 to Southwest Mutual Aid. I'd rather see that money returned to the fire department's budget. But again, that's Mark. Maybe the town says we want to return that to the taxpayer. So for me, I think it is the state responsibility to pay for it. Will that change? I don't know. But currently I pay about $150,000 for dispatching. So at the end of the day, I would like to have access to a dispatching service where I could return that to my budget and be able to have operational impact on the community.
Are there any questions? Laura, do you have anything?
I am here as a letter from the select board, and I'm wondering if you all have any questions. I mean, I think Mark has done a pretty good job talking about the bigger picture. I can tell you that last year, prior to the session in the fall, I received a call from the governor's office and then from the Department of Public Safety. Can you talk through like different ways that we might approach this? And that is largely because of the work that I've done with them and one board, just to try to understand it's really complicated. I don't know if you've gotten that message, but it is really complicated at the state level. There are actually different entities plugging into this system. And the picture that I heard from both the 911 dispatch, 911 center, which is not dispatch, 911 call takers, and the Department of Public Safety was really grim. I mean, it was really scary in terms of the capacity that exists not only within law enforcement, but with the dispatch and with the 911 call takers. And then you have this system where, 911, you're hoping that it's rolling into Westminster. The folks are familiar with Southern Vermont, it could be rolling up into some municipal center, the Windham County, and trying to dispatch them here. The sheriff has provided a pretty good example with the murder. I also think that I don't think we have a good statewide system. I think we should have a much stronger statewide system, but we have a bunch of municipal systems trying to integrate with a state system. And in Vermont, we have no county government, which is becoming a pretty big theme, which I'm not advocating for, but that tension there, with these little towns, a lot of little towns, that would include Dover, much littler, that have fire departments or this type of thing. Trying to interact there where it's not happening. And so the thought was that, put some money on the table for communities, for regions to come together and have a discussion. There is outlined the possibility where actually the taxpayers may save this for the region to save.
That is if they lower our taxes. I mean, that would have to be broad-based statewide taxes, because
So with what we're paying right now for dispatch, for police and fire, what are we contributing to rescue? And if you look at all of that in Windham County, all of the money that's going for dispatch, there's no way. I mean, I shouldn't say there's no way. It's extremely difficult for me to believe that there is not a way that we can do that is more efficient and also reliable. When we have the shortages of bodies, to me, that is like, how do we back each other up? Like, how do we get partnerships together so that we're backing each other up and not letting anybody run the show? So that's all I'm going to say right now, unless you have other questions. I want to show up. Got the letter from the board. I understand the concern around property tax, and this is a very serious issue. So I am paying attention.
anybody else? Grant.
So, I guess maybe because, Laura's here, and these are a couple of questions that, or thoughts that I had on my mind, especially when this whole regional dispatch centers, are being proposed. And, Laura can maybe take this back, maybe she can answer it as concerns, with the state. I still call them state police. When they answer, they say Vermont State Police, they don't say Department of Public Safety when they answer the phones. But anyway, since they have decided now all of a sudden, after all these years to throw up their hands and not gonna dispatch anymore, what kind of maybe guarantee do we have maybe from the state or something, with this, that let's just say we go with, the sheriff's department or Wilmington, who's not to say for some reason, their personnel changes. The new sheriff or the new chief or someone just says, like the state, we're done dispatching. Now we're in that same boat. What kind of guarantee do we have that we're not going to see this again 10, 15, 20, 30 years, down the road after doing this, initial investment? So that's the question, comment number one. And then I guess another thing is we already pay, through public safety, through our state taxes. And part of that goes to dispatching right now through the DPS VSP. I was in a meeting a few years ago, and I don't know if it was under Commissioner Sherling or Commissioner Anderson towards his end of his tenure. But I know the conversation or topic was brought up was, okay, you get out of dispatching, are you going to lessen your staff? The answer was no. So I think the legislatures, I'm not sure if that stance is still there. I can probably comment, but I won't, on reasons why staffing at only these two establishments throughout the whole state, because you moved them away. So you're looking at just a pool from the general area. I guess another comment is, maybe look at what DPS, VSP's dispatching budget costs. They're obviously not going to need the staff to do it with these new centers coming in. So what is their dispatching budget? And why not take whatever that formula or percentage would be out of that now, their budget, to help go towards, communities, municipalities that now have to pay for dispatching, and help out, these centers.
I think those themes were in the letter that was sent to them about what's going to happen with broad-based taxes, and is there going to be savings, and are you going to cut your staff because you won't need all this staff, and nobody but Laura has responded.
Yeah.
So
those are only my two, really comments, and the one is, where's the guarantee?
Right.
they're gonna invest this money in, then what?
So I would just offer two additional things based on the chief's comments. One is. No, I think we're looking at short-term and long-term issues. Inaction right now is really inadvisable. We are in an emergency situation as far as I'm concerned. And the grants and, incentivizing regional cooperation at a minimum, we're trying to shore up some shorter term strategies. The longer term strategy, I believe, also has to have the state incentive. I mean, the state has to be the backup, and I will tell you, in the rural caucus, and we can talk about this extensively with legislators from around the state, and the LCT was there every time, and the LCT is pretty darn adamant that the state cannot get off. They've got to provide them, but again, we're in this emergency situation. And is there anything else? I think that's it. So I would say we're in short term, short midterm, and I agree with the state cannot be completely off the hook. It has to be system.
Thank you. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you
Very much for everything. Thanks for
I
coming
just
on.
wanted to say thank you to Representative Sibilia. She was a wealth of information and for your diligence on all of this. So much appreciated.
Thank you. Okay. We have one more item under police, the outside employment for officers.
So I just want to let the board know that Brattleboro PD has reached out, and one of our officers on their days off is working now part-time for Brat PD. Just in case, you should see him, somebody should see him. One of Dover's officers down there, they did not leave Dover. They are, basically supplementing their income and stuff like that. Brattleboro needed it, and the officer was, more obliged, and this is stuff that we've done in the past anyway. So I just was giving you guys a heads up in case you see something. So
Okay, is this a short-term thing or a long-term thing?
I think it's probably going to depend on when. Keep my snide remarks, but when maybe when they are done with each other, or when one doesn't need the other one anymore, maybe. So, but then
That's,
again, I mean, it could be something that, and permission was granted as long as it does not interfere with our services to the town and stuff that the responsibility is to deliver. So, and that's understandable.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
okay.
Next, we're moving on to unfinished business. We are going to revisit the oil and fuel bids. Ugh. Sarah says it all. Yes, I have it. Does somebody else need a copy of it?
Yeah, I looked at it, but
This is my own copy. And there we go. Well. So none of these are great options. At least we have two bids. Last time we had one bid. Sandry didn't bid on heating oil or propane? Oh. Okay, so we have, and there's a lot of no guarantees. Diesel, gas, and kerosene are at market price. So that's not even included in this bid. So these are well over, these are a third over what we paid last year. The Coda bid came in, this is for heating oil, kerosene, summer diesel, winter diesel, and propane. And only, so the diesel,
They did not quote on the diesel.
they didn't. Oh, I'm reading that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So no diesel. And it's $77,907. NIDO's also quoted on basically oil. And that is $60,000. The oil only for Coda and Coda is $72,872. So. Sarah,
Are we obligated to make all of the purchases from a single company? Or can we take the propane from one and the heating oil from another?
Yes.
Yeah, so the price, these prices aren't dependent on us having purchased everything.
No, but it wasn't bid out that way.
Okay.
the propane is such a small item compared
Right.
to the heating oil. And of course. The diesel. So, again, our total. Wow. Was 40,250 last year. It was a dramatic increase. Any discussion? I think we need to. Lock in the heating oil for sure. I mean, this is a major expenditure for the town and it's gone through the roof right now. So does somebody want to make a motion to accept one of these two bids because it's getting late? Most of the bid windows, most of the pre-buy windows have closed.
So I would make a motion, we accept the bid from NIDO's at $4.05 per gallon for the heating oil.
Second,
Any comments? Scott, any comment? Joe? No, nobody looks happy.
No, there's nothing to be happy about.
Can I make it?
It's gonna come down, but not the case.
So. I don't know what's going to go on with propane. It could come down, and only use. 730 gallons, so it's not a huge amount. It's the diesel, which is 30,000 gallons summer, which is really the kicker in this too, that we don't have any kind of price. So. Any other comment? All in favor of accepting the NIDO bid for heating oil?
Uh,
aye.
Aye from the.
I think them to quote. I know how hard they do it. Who's that? I think that's Joe. Okay. The RFP.
Aye.
Okay, thanks, Joe. The RFP for the dam removal scoping study. I'm sure that's why you're here, Brian. Okay. So Windham Regional has written up the RFP for the dam scoping study, and we need to get this out and advertised so we can start moving forward. I thought they did a pretty good job on it. So the next thing would be to actually publish the RFP and send it out to others that might be interested in getting on it. Yes. So, Janet, do you have anything else for us on the scoping study?
No, I know Alyssa Sabato from the regional is on the Zoom. I don't know if she can hear me, but
Hi, Alyssa.
Hi, I am here to answer any questions that you may have. But it's ready to get out there. So we have dates on it and everything. So we're gonna have a pre-bid site visit on the 22nd. And so, yeah, just hoping that we get some bids.
and I also included a copy of the ad, so can we get that in this week's paper?
If it is approved by the
Yes.
board.
Yes.
Any comments from anybody about this Snow Lake scoping dam scoping?
Dam
Study and that's all that the town is gonna, at this point, is involved in is getting a scoping study to see what might be involved in removing the dam. So. Hearing nothing else, all in favor?
Aye.
I thought we did, sorry.
Nope.
You make
I
a
make a
motion?
motion that we release the RFP for the Snow Lake Dam scoping study as written and advertised as provided in our documents.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa. Okay, next item is the Highway Department. We're looking at an access permit for 19A Whites Hill Road off Clinton Bond Trail. Hi, Travis. Can you talk to us? Somebody talk to us about this. You have more knowledge of it than we do.
That's long, right, so,
Yes, because it's off the trail.
yeah, that is. Already. I don't know why why they're applying, because it's already there. They've already cut a hole in the stone wall and access. the property.
How long ago?
I don't know a date as to when it happened, but they went ahead and did it, and then before Andy and I had talked to them, we finally got them to go before the board and say, hey, you need an access permit for this. So,
Huh.
yeah,
Are
I've
they-
approved a driveway permit for the A lot, I'm not sure if it's the same lot, but off of White's Hill Road, so that is all set. But the one for the trail has to come from you guys, and so this is why you're seeing it, because it has already happened.
Are
It
the,
don't stop.
I can't quite read the names. Are the
Concan,
Concanon and
Rami, Stimpy.
are you in the audience tonight? Okay, I'd like to think we ought to pass over this and let them come to the board and explain what's going on up there. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Oh, Andy?
Yeah, hi, I talked with these folks when they bought the piece of property and told me their plans and let them know they would need your approval. They did go ahead and do it without asking any approval, which is a problem. I don't think there's any problem with them accessing their camp from Clinton Bond Trail, but you want to be careful. The issues that I see, just so you know, when you do decide to act on this or whatever, there's another camp on Clinton Bond Trail. It's a legal trail. That's the road class status, and the other camp are concerned about development on the trail. The camp, the existing camp has been broken into. They didn't want the road upgraded because the rougher it looks, the less traffic you're going to have up there. It's a lonely little spot up in the woods and easy for kids to break into and steal things. They did upgrade the trail, or the people they hired upgraded the trail slightly to get their equipment in there without asking. Those are issues. I think the major issue is just that they need to understand, they need to talk to Travis before they do anything to the trail up there, number one. And number two, legal trails aren't maintained by the town, particularly in the winter with plowing. And the other camp owners and other snowmobile users don't want to see that trail plowed. It is used by snowmobiles currently. And I think if you make a decision, it should stipulate, number one, that any work on the trail needs to go through Travis and that it can't be plowed in the winter, particularly because they do have access off of Whites Hill Road, which is plowed. and maybe your approval would be provisional or to be revisited or some such thing. It's very likely that they had a lot going on. Maybe their contractors did some things they didn't know about. It's very likely that that it's excusable that they overlooked what they overlooked. But you're right to question them and be careful with it. Thanks.
Joe or Scott, do you have any comments on this?
Nope, just appreciate the feedback from Andy.
Joe? Okay. Well, it looks like we have enough people to say we're not going to act on this tonight. And
Right.
that we should invite them to our next meeting so that they can tell us what's going on. Okay. Next is an update on the Tannery Road Bridge. Travis.
So we had some damage to the Tannery Road Bridge, the copper cap, no cap. Finally found somebody to take a look. Couple people actually looked at it. And one company wanted to replace the whole thing and didn't want to repair it, just replace the whole thing. And he gave us a price for that. $19,999. And I had reached out to another company and I sent him pictures and worked really close with him. They seem like a great company. They're from Vermont. East Coast Copper from Colchester. They'll come down, replace the panels that are needed, resolder them back together. Get us fixed back up for $5,400.
It's a no-brainer.
Sarah.
Did you have an opportunity to get any references or see any of their other work?
Yeah, they have a pretty nice website. Yeah.
Jim brought us this
Concern.
concern on the Tannery Road Bridge. Any comments on this? Which way we should go?
It's difficult to find somebody.
So repairing it, you think, I mean, you're the one who's been actively looking for it, and we appreciate that. I just want to give you your chance to speak.
Sense.
Dan?
The underpinnings of the bridge, it's just copper, the rest of it's in good shape.
Yes, it's structurally sound. It's
Right.
just the,
Gotcha.
yeah, the beautification
sheeting.
part of it, there, the arch, with the copper top on it. Yes.
So if we award East Coast Copper this, we should do the contract like we do for other major projects, because they're probably gonna want some money up front, because copper is very expensive, so Jeanette can help you with that, I'm sure.
Okay.
Any other comments about it? Joe or Scott? Okay. Okay, hearing none now, somebody want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the bid from East Coast Copper for $5,400 to repair the copper on the Tannery Road Bridge.
I'll second
And the good thing is, I think they can do it this. Scott, did you have a question?
Just saying aye a little bit early, I guess.
Okay, okay,
Jumping on it.
all in favor?
it.
Aye,
Aye.
very good. Yeah, still missing.
Joe went, yeah.
All right, anything else, Highway? Did they take the tree down today?
No, I don't believe so.
They were up there this morning when I
Were they?
went by.
Okay, maybe it was today. I know.
So you want to give us an update on the tree at the common?
The tree did have to get taken down. It was too far gone. They got up in there. Aerial and looked down. It's wet quite a ways down.
Right.
So it did need to come down. I'm getting prices now on the grinding of the stump. Because we shouldn't dig it out. Yeah. So that's where we're at with the tree. And as far as the lighting goes. For Efficiency Vermont, that work has started. They started on the highway garage today, and I believe tomorrow they'd like to start here. On this building. So.
Does the staff know about that?
No.
Surprise.
I
The
just found
staff
out
is
at
aware
I
now.
just found out at 5 o'clock tonight myself, so, yep. When you guys get here. Yeah.
Okay, well, things are moving. Oh, and I had a question about the ramp and the old ramp
Yeah.
at the town hall.
Yes.
The old ramp is coming down. Are we waiting for the prefab for the back or what's
The
going on?
precast for
The
the back,
precast?
yeah. And we're waiting on the railings for the front.
Okay,
Once the railings come on, gets put on the front, and we'll take the old one out and move forward on that.
and the door refurb?
The door hasn't been touched yet.
Yes. Is that critical to getting it? I mean,
No, the railings can get installed and that could get on.
all right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else for the highway department? Next, we're moving on to the economic development department with pole banner purchase.
Hello. Hopefully you had a chance to look at the banner estimates that I sent over. I did get 3. We're looking to purchase new pole banners and I think hardware for the very first time to have 3 different seasonal changes to go up. So I did get 3 estimates. I think Material Promotions is who we should order from, and just looking for any feedback or questions you have.
Sarah.
Really nitpicky, but I think the font that they're using for the word Dover is not going to read very well if you're driving down the road.
So that font is actually part of our Buy Town marketing campaign. So these will match Wilmington banners, and then we have some for Dover that aren't pictured here that I already have in my office that match that. So we did have a Buy Town marketing committee group, and we did vote those forward. So that will match throughout the 2 towns.
There,
Eric.
the size of those banners, that font sticks out a lot more than you expected to.
Okay.
I mean,
It's
they're
28 by 6.
they're large.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right,
I can't find it.
they're right here.
Oh, okay. I'm just trying to find it.
This
So,
is the one that was the first one.
okay.
So this is the one right there.
Material Promotions is the
Mhm.
recommended one. Okay. So I make a motion to approve the expenditure of $7,035.50 for the replacement banners and hardware, pole banners and hardware
From Material Promotions.
from Material Promotion, sorry.
I
Yes.
second it.
Any other comments? Sure. Somebody saying something? Are you saying something, Joe? We really can't hear you, so,
Yes, yes.
so, all, did you second it? Yes, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now we can hear you, Joe. Okay, now we're moving on to the Dover Town Forest sign.
So I did send out a request for estimates to 6 different sign makers. By last Friday had heard only from 1. I did get a few additional in this afternoon, but they are double the price of the one we received Friday. So Doucette Designs got back to us. I did show, I sent that to you, and I did show them to Andy. So this is for the named sign at Dover Town Forest, renaming it the Phil Bartlett Recreation Area. And this is in conjunction with the boulder with the bronze plaque. So this would be opposite of that at the entrance.
And you were suggesting if we go with this, the green sign?
Yes, so we took a very unscientific poll, but I think the green is what most preferred. And they actually have a pretty quick turnaround time, so we may actually be able to do this fall.
Any
Oh, and
questions?
I have a sign permit started, and I did talk to Tabby about it. And once we have the details of the sign, I can submit that to her.
Anybody have any comments about the sign for the Dover Town Forest? Somebody want to make a motion?
I make a motion to accept the bid from Justin Doucette for $2,305.50 for the Dover Town Forest Phil Bartlett Recreation Area sign
I second it.
in the color option B.
Here, any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. While we're still talking
Aye.
about the town
Thank you,
forest,
Joe.
really quickly, we did get the dedication version of the plaque. And it's in my office. Eric, I think, would like to show it. So this is what we'll use before we receive the actual bronze, and we'll gift this to the family once we're done with it. So I know he wants to show that to you guys.
He is, he's being the flag bearer here.
It's usually me that has to hold stuff up in a meeting, so this is a nice change.
Anything else, Shannon, from that end of things?
So, thank you.
Next, we're moving on to the Dover Activity Park project proposal.
So this is a project proposed by Kurt Morse, came through the Dover Trails and Recreation Committee with a recommendation to the select board. So I believe Tripp wanted to briefly give some comments on it, and then we will see you guys in front.
Thank you. When I tell you that 6 months ago, somebody had said I'd be in front of this committee talking about a recreation park, that just wasn't even in my equation. This all started because we were looking for a place to play pickleball outside. And we stumbled upon 2 courts that were in disrepair on the Andiron's old property. I spoke to Rich Kaplan, and then my vision got a little bigger. And the more I talked to people about an idea for an activity park, it just kind of morphed. So I'm hoping you can indulge me for 6 to 8 minutes, if that's brief enough. I'll get through this. What I need you to believe is $32,000 of the town's money you wisely earmarked to have the Weston and Sampson report produced provides a good roadmap to a way to give our residents a better quality of life, give reasons to the visitors to come back, which of course will bring additional revenues to most of the town's businesses. After reading the Weston and Sampson report, which is 80 pages, for the 5th time, I highlighted where I felt the park follows marching orders in the conclusion of the report. I called Daniel Biggs at Weston and Sampson, who was the project supervisor for Weston and Sampson on this project. I introduced myself as a citizen of Dover, Vermont, who was spearheading a project that I believe would replicate the report's suggestions to the town. I told him I did not in any way represent the town of Dover and made sure there would be no billable hours for the town. Dan was very amiable to hearing what I was endeavoring, and when I was finished painting the picture of my vision for the park, he paused and told me he was so happy that after 2 to 3 years, we were considering such a project. He asked me many questions, made a few suggestions, and then told me when we get this passed by the select board to call him back, and he'd personally be happy to help with contracts for equipment, contractors, and help with any hurdles we might have. I need you to believe that our business community is totally on board and excited about the possibility that our town is truly doing something to bring more people into town, as well as getting locals out during the week and enhance their bottom line in the months there is no snow on the ground. I've talked with several owners of businesses in our 3 largest industries, other than Mount Snow, restaurants, real estate companies, and hotels. All see the location as the perfect fit on Route 100. From May to October, when the park is active, is a time they would love to see their revenues grow. From Becky Clark at TC's and Tannery, and Arnie at the new flatbread, to realtors John Red, Becky Wadsworth, and Adam Palmer,
and hotel folks like Karina, Greg Ghost, Tim at Dubberry, Mary Lou and Tim at Durham Gym, they all love the concept, but they all agree this must be done well. Top quality equipment paired with a great recreation supervisor and staffing and well-planned and aesthetically pleasing landscape space was important to all of them. I've also talked to 2 wedding planners and told them about the proposed park. And their response was that one of the reasons they have a hard time selling the Deerfield Valley as a wedding location is there's not enough for the wedding invitee to do while in town. If there was a place that guests of all ages could congregate and have fun before the wedding, it'd be great. I reached out to many of our town's contractors and handy people, as well as meeting with the manager of W&W, who said he'd be glad to participate with materials at cost and discounted from that when possible. He said also they'd be happy to help with construction of gaga pits, with fencing, horseshoe pits, etc. I'm sure we'll see a ton of community spirit in helping this project come together, which is a great way to energize and unify our town. I need you to believe there is no time like the present for instilling energy and hope to the people about the future of our town. We now have access to a highly visible, strategically located property and one that ties into the Valley Park, or the Valley Trail, sorry, the Dover Park and Horse Hill Park. If we can get this site paired between now and when the winter comes and get commitments now for the right contractors to come in the spring and lay out asphalt for the ports and have them surfaced, we can in fact have this park open for next Memorial Day. We can apply for grants this fall for next year and fundraise from the private sector to help offset the costs. We can form volunteer committees to address the many issues we need to face before we open the park. I'm hoping everyone on this board will use their unique skills and work on these committees. When I look at you 2 in particular, and Joe, and I'm not meaning to leave you out, Dan, but Scott, we all have kids, mine sitting back here. And if we look back 10 years ago, and we all had the opportunity for our kids to go play the park in town, I think Zeb and Wyatt would have loved it. I think Will.
Zeb would never have gone to something like this. There's way too many people.
Will and Wes would have liked it. Joe and Jillian would have liked it. And in the future, Emery and Griffin can go with you and their grandparents, Gail and Fred. Now I'd like to address, no, I wouldn't yet. Hold on, I want to say one more thing that's important. I need you to believe that tonight you have the opportunity to literally, not figuratively, change people's lives. To elaborate, given the many reports based on scientific studies show that adding easy access of recreational facilities to one's life is important in several ways. Here are just a few. It increases life expectancy. It improves heart health. It reduces stress and depression. It reduces isolation and loneliness, and it bonds and keeps families together. Now, as I end here, I'm going to give you 2 personal requests. I met Carl Splendor about 40 years ago. My dad had moved up here, and we know a lot of people. Carl was a tennis player, and so was my dad. He took my dad and introduced him to people and got him active again. Fast forward some 25 years, he was the person that came up to me when my dad was faltering and told me he's not the same. And that's what started me getting involved in helping him try to recover. He has helped more children and taught kids tennis for years and years and years. My first request is that the tennis court on his property be named for Carl Splendor. The second request is a little more personal. And I'm going to ask my daughter and Jody Brown, come on up for a second. Yeah. Matilda, would you be first? Please come on up here.
So this is rather unusual, Trip.
But I
To
can't
be-
read this.
No, not that.
Yeah.
That we are considering a project we haven't even considered, and we're being asked for names. That's a little odd, because we haven't even had an opportunity to discuss the park. I don't know, I have never had this happen in my 11 years on this board, so this is a very unusual thing that's
And
happening.
this is the first time I've been in front of the board, so I didn't know what's.
Because normally, we vet it through all the other questions we might have, and then this kind of thing happens. It's really unusual. I didn't know what you were gonna say, when you said you had these personal notes. So saying that, because you gave your personal note, I'll let the other one go, but it is not the normal way we do that a board would objectively look at a project. Does that make sense? Okay, so with that, they may continue.
Okay. So
Elizabeth Rosie Brown is a lifelong resident of Eastover. She was the daughter of Clyde and Olive Gale Jones and born on July 16, 1935. She grew up on a family farm on Jockey Hollow Road that had been in her early family for many generations. Her first family members that moved to the area arrived in Dover around the 1780s and were active in settling the town of Dover. One of them being her great-great-great-grandfather, William Haskin. She attended the schoolhouse on North Street, among other schools in Dover as a child, and graduated from Brattleboro High School. Rosie loved the town of Dover that her family was and continues to be deeply rooted in. She was active in the community, working at the Dover School and driving the school bus. Many described her as a second mom to them while at school. She also worked as a town lister for many years. In addition, she volunteered for many positions in the community, including serving on the select board, school board, Dover Historical Society, as treasurer of the Eastover Fire Department, and member of the Ladies' Aid to the Eastover Baptist Church. Rosie was also instrumental in the Dover bicentennial celebration and third the yearly Dover Day celebrated, that unfortunately doesn't occur anymore. She was married to her husband, Sonny, for 60 years and had 5 children together. Her and Sonny enjoyed participating and attending many horse pulling events, where she was the announcer for the day's activities. Rosie was an avid reader, prolific poetry writer, great storyteller, enjoyed the challenge of crossword puzzles, and just loved to talk. She was also known for always open to our delicious food and willingness to help those in need. And I also add that my dad has put in so much effort and so much time into this project, and I'm incredibly proud of him, and I hope this, comes together, because he also thinks in so much that he loves, but he also really wants to help the community in this and, bring the community together and attract tourists and stuff, and this would be really great.
Jody?
So this is a poem that was actually written by my grandmother. It's called Dover Day. Dover Day is a special time for us all, a beautiful day at the beginning of fall, to all get together and have some fun, now that summer chores are done. We have lots to show the whole wide world, so our flag is flying and our banners unfurled. We have lots of talent within our place, the main feature of which is a smile on each face. We have artists, athletes, and poets and craftspeople, and a score of builders and landscapers too. Now snow just sits there and awaits its turn, for the snowflakes to start after the leaves have turned. The many seasonal activities increasing speed, and the town of Dover always takes the lead. We need talented people to lead the drive, so please won't you join us as we strive to keep the town of Dover a very special town. If we all work together, we'll survive its ups and downs. It takes many hands to do the town's work, so shoulder your civic duty and do not shirk. Heed the cry for help from each committee or board, and volunteer to help carry some of the load. When we all lend a hand, it eases the chore, and the boards and committees will accomplish much more. Our town will outshine everyone in the state, and all of our citizens will proclaim it is great. Even our out-of-state visitors will agree that the town of Dover is the best place to be.
Thank you for indulging.
Yes, Dan.
This momentous piece of property that Mr. Kaplan owns, will it be zoned separately from his buildings on either side of it? And I know that American Flatbread, I believe, I haven't seen any documents, has a 3-year lease with an option to buy it. Will they then own the property? Will the town be then subsidizing a private company? That's one of the questions I had right off the bat.
Sure. So there are actually 2 properties there. And it's the old Andirons property, and then, you know, I did offer to bring people out, but at the bottom of that tennis court, the chewed up tennis courts to the south is the other property that attached to 171 under a different LLC, but Rich owns both of those LLCs. Okay. What Rich and I have discussed is doing a 25 to 50-year lease. And actually in the Weston and Sampson report, in several areas, it said to make partnerships with private citizens. I've spoken to both Chris Cady, off the books, you won't be billed, and Bob Fisher. And there's a way to provide an ongoing lease regardless of ownership, so that we have access to that with first right of refusal to subdivide and buy. So it will be set up at a price where the town or where the property sits today without all the improvements. And quite honestly, that could happen in 2 years, 5 years, 20 years, depending on what we want to do. There should be 2 separate leases. And the reason for that is, with the help of Randy, who's no longer here, we moved
It's behind you.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
He suggested we move the volleyball courts from a space I had originally set it up because it was too close to Route 100. So I moved it to the south side and put it further away, but that also puts it on the 171 property rather than the Andirons property, which means there's nothing going on the Andirons property that would need an Act 52 at all. And all we're doing is resurfacing a couple of tennis courts. It may need to go, and I've talked to Tabby about this, may need to go by DRB for the flat surface there. But other than that, the long games and things like that shouldn't need that. I've spoken to Stephanie Giles, who is our Act 250 person, and kept her informed as to what we're doing. She doesn't think the volleyball courts are going to be an issue on 171, but we're going to send her everything just to have her take a look at it. I've also spoken to the engineer on this from Trinity Engineering. Again, not on anybody's nickel because I've done business on my property with him. And he's seen it, and he doesn't think there's anything there that should spawn any interest from any agency.
Other comments or questions? Joe?
He's there, but he's still here.
Sarah?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh,
I have
go
no
ahead.
comments.
No comments?
No comments.
Sarah?
All right. I think it's a great concept. I'm not sure I believe the town should spend that kind of money on somebody else's land, even with a lease. That's a lot of investment. We already have three large projects in the pipeline that have already been committed to, that we already have funds designated for, in addition to the ongoing economic development programs that we offer to the business owners in our town. $225,000 is a big lift. I know it's only 10%, but as we all saw, you know, what COVID did to our 1% money all across, you know, every town in the area that had 1%. We don't know what's coming down the pike. We need to be more conservative. I think this is the kind of project that would be absolutely fantastic to see a private group or a private individual develop on their own. I think it would be, I think it would be outstanding. But I think that this would be more appropriate for a private, either a group or an individual to fundraise and put together than for the town.
Okay, should I respond?
You asked me.
Oh, may I respond?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. My first rebuttal to that would be that I feel this project will actually increase and pay for itself over a short period of time, our 1% money. We'll bring more people into town through tournaments, through activities, like volleyball. I've got, let me take 1 second. We put up a website and a thing called, I don't know what it's called, Instagram, or you can tell I'm not good at that stuff, but this is what I got from this gentleman. My wife and I are second homeowners in Dover. We plan and personally run a large cornhole tournament to raise money for local charities. Typically, we have roughly 300 people, 70+ teams, and last year netted $60,000 for our event for charity. I would like to volunteer our services and help host and organize a tournament for the park. And this is something, if this is something that would be desired. Thank you so much for this project and the initiative. So I would tell you that I feel the town, obviously, business people, and you've read the letters, I think, in the packet. Visitors, I talked to wedding planners, the town needs stuff to do in the summer. And it would be great if somebody swooped in and wanted to do this, but you know, the reality is that we're gonna surround that property is not gonna be there forever. And quite honestly, it's a unique property, in the right space, near the Dover Park, near Horse Hill, right on the Valley Trail. So if we're gonna wait around, we may not have that accessibility to the property. I certainly think we can maybe get Rich to think about selling it, but in the long conversation that I had with Chris Cady, there are lots of options of how to do this the right way. And in the Wesson Sampson report, in my conversation with Dan, there aren't lands available all the time. So you have to do partnerships with locals. And, you know, I've known Rich Kaplan for 40 years. I taught him when he was in high school, believe it or not. I just want to start with that. He is all in on this project and will do whatever works best for the town. So Sarah, if you're saying the only reason you don't want to do it is because we don't own the property, then let's figure out a way to buy the property within.
How much is that gonna cost?
I don't know.
I mean,
So we looked at purchasing the tennis courts just south of there.
Yeah.
And it was a reasonable price. We felt we had 3 projects going, one of which being property we had most recently purchased that we haven't developed yet. So this might be a good project at the right time, but we have a lot of commitment and resources committed to other projects right now that have been in the pipeline and are getting ready to be done. So it's really hard to have one that we're on land we don't own. I mean, we took this money off the tax rolls. This land on Horace Hill. We need to do something with it. And that takes resources. It not only takes money, it takes human resources. And it takes ongoing costs and maintenance. And the way we currently fund any town-owned assets or town-developed assets is through our regular municipal taxing. It's not through the 1%. So once something is owned by the town of Dover, like Dover Park, all the costs come out of our general budget, our highway budget, and other budgets to maintain the park. So we don't have any of that money in our budget this year at all. Any staffing, any long-term costs that we will need to escalate through the years. What is it going to do to town equipment to keep the property mowed? It's more wear and tear on our mowers or trimmers, or how many personnel is it going to take? We have a lot of analysis to do before we could even really consider moving at the kind of speed that you were proposing. I have to say, there's a lot of things that we would have to, I would think we should do some engineering just to make sure all this is going to fit. It's all ADA accessible, all those things are, and we've been working on a ramp for the town hall for years now. So I'm telling you, this stuff sometimes moves at a slow pace, and trying to get contractors, even though they say they're going to show up, they don't always show up. So those are some other things that I see that really, there is some serious merit to a project like this. And I give you great credit for how hard you've worked, but we are cut thin with our resources as well in every way. And I just don't know how we could possibly orchestrate this Because we would have to, if it's the town's money, the town is gonna oversee it all. And that would be even more, and we have a department of 2 now. And a highway department that has their own responsibilities and are gearing up for some of the other projects that we're doing. So we're thin, and to take everybody off from the task that they're on at hand, trying to get those things accomplished. And frankly, we need to get stuff done at Horace Hill. We've got to get the Valley Trail A- done. We got more stuff to do in the town forest. We have a lot of projects going. Huh?
And the Ridge Trail.
Oh, and the Ridge Trail, yeah. Yeah, so we have a lot of projects going. And so I'm not sure where we're gonna find the resources to do this. And I know we can't get it done in a timeline that would make you happy. So I agree with Sarah, a private partnership. I think that's a good opportunity for somebody else to jump in and do it. Sorry. Is that why you raise your hand?
No, when Trip brought the rough sketch to me, one of the things that I was thinking about, and one of the things that concerns me from a zoning perspective, is how would a person, unless it was Rich funding this, since he owns both pieces of property at this point, section off a chunk of one piece of land, another chunk of another, and verifying whether or not our zoning will allow that subdivision to make a third single piece that would be the park. So whether or not things can be subdivided, because I don't see that getting a long-term lease on half a piece of property that one person owns, half of another, and combining that may work out, that may not, but I'm a little concerned about how that would break out. And having that as its own entity for whomever does the project, I'd like to look at that a little bit more and see how that would work out. It's still in the commercial zone, so technically we could park that the same way that the Dover Park is a park. It's in the same zone, but actually creating that park parcel, I think, is something that would take some engineering and some looking at to see if that can be done. Because a half of one, John Doe owns one and James Smith owns the other half in the future, and that could be a little complex.
Answer.
Who else can answer? You, Dan.
That's why my question was jurisdictional. I'm very pro recreation. That's the reason why I have a total hip, total knee, total shoulder, this shoulder on the 4th of February, and meniscus over here from playing many 2 sports and over recreating. I would love this. I still play hockey at 76.
Sarah.
I would just like to return to the comment you made about the, economic development. I don't believe that economic development is solely the responsibility of the town of Dover. Certainly, it's an important responsibility, but Mount Snow is a great economic development for the town, and we don't own an inch of that place. So I don't see that suggesting that this be done by a private party is necessarily saying that it's not going to be good economic development.
I don't think I was saying that. And can I respond?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. One of the pieces that I think I put in there, I put in myself, so I'm old, so, was how the park would pay for itself, because some of your concerns were assets and resources and things like that. In the Weston and Sampson report, and I'm gonna rely on that a lot because, again, we town fair paid for it. And, they had these suggestions after doing this thing. They suggested, hiring a superintendent. They also suggested you need to have a place in town where people of all ages can congregate. We don't have that. The other thing I'm gonna add in, they strongly suggested, and this was in the high thing, that we have an amphitheater in town. This property could also serve as an amphitheater, with the southern part, if you look at the map, the southern part of it has 26,000 square feet. They suggest we have 20,000 square feet, which could have a stage up in the southwest corner where you could have people with chairs, lawn chairs, and sitting on the sand, watching concerts or movies or whatever it is. So they had put 168,000 for that. We could do that, incorporate in the park itself and kill two birds with one stone.
Yes,
Again,
but the Weston and Sampson study also was a phased project.
Yeah.
We're starting to hit some of the phases and now the work's gonna happen. We outlaid a lot of money for the Horace Hill property. And we need to do work on it. That needs to be a priority to it with us. The Ridge Trail project is another one. This is an opportunity to work on, to get trails developed on Forest Service land, which has not been available. So we have a lot of things, and we don't have any money in a budget for a supervisor. We don't have any money for even part-time people. We're gonna be over, I don't know about anybody else, but my property taxes went up this year. And went up a pretty good amount. And we are very conscious of how much property taxes increased. And all of these, a supervisor with benefits, we're probably talking all in about $80,000 for one person. And one person can't do all of this. I mean, so those are all great ideas, but we don't have, this plan wasn't on the table when we did our budget last December. So.
May I speak?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. I've had several conversations with Dave Smith and with Travis. And they both told me, he's a big guy, I wouldn't lie right next to him. They both told me that Dave is spread too thin as it is. He cannot take care of the trails he's taking care of now. And that, when I came to him and said, Dave mow our lawns, they looked at me like I had 8 heads. So the reality is, you're gonna need somebody with these trails to manage that anyways. And it's not gonna be on Travis's or Dave's lap. So you're gonna need to think about getting somebody that not only can support the trails thing, but staffing. And again, in my report, I showed you how we can more than pay for staffing for this park. And, and still have money for CapEx down the road.
Yes. Sarah?
As to the park paying for itself, I think those numbers are really, really optimistic, and I don't think they take into account anywhere near the kind of vandalism we're gonna be dealing with. I think we're gonna be seeing a lot of loss and a lot of replacement equipment every single year. We're not gonna be putting up the way you've designed it. We're not gonna be putting up a chain link fence around it to keep people from getting in there at night, off season, whatever. I see a lot of risk of damage. And I see us expending a lot of money on some really, really high-end, justifiably so, courts and equipment, and seeing it trashed inside a year. And we're going to be spending more and more and more money out of our budget to replace and repair the things that have been destroyed. If we don't have, and if we put the fence up, then we cut off the snowmobile track. So we're caught between a rock and a hard place on that.
So I've spent time talking with a security expert. I've also had conversations with Randy about that. The park will have motion lights, it will have cameras, and the reality is there's nothing other than the courts that they can come spray paint that we have vandalism coverage for. There won't be anything they can take because everything will be locked up as far as equipment goes, other than volleyball nets and things like that at night. I also know that it's a very visible place. The local police very often at night park in the space right at the Dover Forge there. And, we're aware that that's happening. I've talked to the parks in Manchester, Chester, and Pingree up in Londonderry. And they thought that was gonna be a problem for them too. They haven't had it. So, when we look at stumbling blocks, putting a fence up around it, I don't think is a solution. I think the reality is that we make sure our security, even if it has to be solar lit at night, which is doable with a battery powered. Again, I've got a guy that is a client that does this type of thing. How many people with a camera and lights on there are gonna go do damage?
So we've learned a lot from our little Dover Park in terms of upkeep and things that happen. One light that was run into was extremely expensive. There's just the ongoing maintenance when we, and so I wasn't aware because I was on the board when we created Dover Park. We, mow it, keep it up. We never realized how much ongoing cost there is. And so that's something that we would really need to understand and figure so that we could add that into the budget every year and how much it would escalate, just as things escalate with the cost of everything. But it will take more wear and tear on our mowing, on our equipment because it's being used more. And Travis had talked to us already about whether we should get a handyman to maybe relieve Dave from some of his duties so he could spend more time working on the grounds. But this is not anything we've had flushed out. It wasn't for this year, and it's certainly not in this fiscal year's budget. That also, I have major concerns that by improving somebody else's property, if we own this property, we would be doing this, I'm sure, but we don't. And we turned down the tennis courts, which are also on the Valley Trail, because we just felt that they are smaller, but we just felt we didn't have enough arms and legs to do everything with the current personnel and resources we have. And I have to also tell you, I don't know if you know that last year, the 1% local option money was under attack by the legislature. They wanted to take the money from all of the towns that collect 1% local option money and split it between all 250 towns or so in the state of Vermont. Seriously, it's constantly being reevaluated. So it's not always a steady source of income, as we know from COVID. So it's something we have to be very careful about how we spend, and we have a lot of resources spent already earmarked for certain projects. So I like the idea. I just think there's so much that we can't get our arms and legs around, both financially, the land situation, and just being able to handle all of this new. Yes, we are going to need a parks department. We don't have it now. We don't have it by any means, but we need to do that incrementally. We can't throw it all at the wall one night. It just doesn't happen and have it done. So those are my thoughts on it. I'd like to hear from the two board members that are on Zoom.
First of all, I just want to say I appreciate and I applaud those efforts. I wish one of the reasons why I came onto the select board, I wanted to even be part of this, was to have great things like this come to the town and be part of that. I've also, although I should have really known how slow our government can work, and lots of times for a reason, it takes times, and yes, the land ownership and how that was all going to shake out. But I would love to see if we could come up with, other than just saying it was private funding, maybe an action list of things. Tripp has obviously shown he's willing to put in the time, the effort, gather all the other people that have come in support, which I also really appreciate. If we could make some type of action list to take, steps forward to see if this could be achievable, if this is something that we could get in place or get rolling. Obviously it's not going to be as fast as any of us would like. You mentioned my kids are young. I'd love to see them be able to use it. But maybe we could start small, or maybe we could all just come up with a list of things that he could do so we could have some more positive action, positive momentum behind it.
How about Joe? Joe, do you have any comments?
Can you hear me pretty well
Yep.
right now? All right, I'm gonna try. Traveling on a train, so I'm moving around. So I applaud Chip for coming to this. So I just want to let Chip and everyone else know that we also have the Trail A- need to complete that could come on the board. So that's going to take some money out of our resources. And also the fact that this would be a great to keep moving forward, if Trip would like, and bring it to actually to the town meeting, where we can actually discuss it then and actually get it on the docket if we have a much more overwhelming success rate of people wanting to do this. I'd love to see something like this happen, but again, we have money being spent in other ways.
Hey, Joe, it's really, we're picking up everybody in the background more than we're picking up you. Is there anywhere you can go to be?
No.
Sarah just suggested a bathroom.
Yeah, no, I can try, but.
Okay.
I also appreciate bringing this up at town meeting.
Hold on, Scott, what? Oh, he muted himself. Okay.
I don't have anywhere to go, Vicky. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
all right, well, we were just, so you think that we should put it on for vote at town meeting? Is that what you said?
I didn't say that, but we could discuss it at town meeting. If Trip had enough people to sign up, we could do something at town meeting with this.
I also thought that would be a good idea. Yes, town meeting.
To discuss it?
Yes.
Okay. So, Sarah?
And I'll just say right now, if you decided to go forward with this and try to go after private money, I'm more than happy to volunteer to help with fundraising.
And she's a good
I
fundraiser.
do a lot of it. I'm more than happy to participate in that. But I right now, I'm just feeling uncomfortable about certainly what the point Vicky made about the speed is that's just not how municipal funding works. Things just don't go that fast. And just because we want it to doesn't mean it can. And so honestly, I think your vision is going to be realized quicker if it's done through private funding. And certainly if there's fundraising to do, I'm happy to help.
Dan?
And maybe, if Tabby's plan where you can find a way to get this into one piece, maybe Rich could donate it and get a tax credit out of it, which might help the situation. So then it becomes a town piece of property. That's a possibility.
And my biggest issue, besides the fact we don't own the property, which is a massive issue in this for me, is I don't want it would take over everything that we were to be doing for the next, whatever, 9 months, 10 months. And that's not fair to the other projects that we have been planning for. And if working with towns, it goes slow sometimes. It's the way it goes. It's just like working with government. But it's our responsibility to make sure the money is being spent properly. And if it isn't, we're the people being hung, okay? So we are the people who have to do that, and that means moving slow. I would want to see an engineer come out and really put this together. That's a lot of money. It takes time. So those are all things that when you're working with and this isn't like some of our other projects like Do It, where you present that you're going to, put a new roof on and we give you a certain amount of money. This is a lot. This is the entire structure on a property that we don't own. And not today, in my mind. We cannot do it because we have the other projects that are way ahead of it in terms of where they're at. And they're going to take a lot of resources, both financially and with our staff. So that's my mind. But if somebody wants to make a motion to move forward with this.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you. We appreciate the time and effort to Trip. Believe me, this is not an easy decision, but it's not. It's one I feel very strongly that we can't move on at this point.
Figure a way to reconnoiter it.
Thank you. If we want to talk about it, changing environment.
Thank you.
I think I take it,
Potential short-term rental registration discussion.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so at Bytown Housing over the past, at least 6 months at this point, we've been having an ongoing conversation about the potential of a registration program for our short-term rentals, mainly RVOs and ones that are listed online. I will start by saying that in no way, shape, or form is this intended to affect, the allowance of Airbnbs within the town of Dover. And we understand that there's an entire demographic of people who only travel this way. And the last thing we want to do is shut the door on them. I've heard back through the grapevine that this is an attempt to shut down or ban Airbnbs within the town. This is literally the exact opposite of what we're trying to achieve, is that we get some rules in place to keep that from happening down the road. Most recently, we've spoken to a company called Granicus, who provided us with some statistics about, how many Airbnbs there are. There are, as of April this year, when they gave their presentation initially, there were 753 properties or 753 listings that represented 553 unique properties on Airbnb, VRBO, and the other short. So there's a lot of them here. There's not quite as many in Eastover, but there's some there as well. What we're talking about is basically, what we're looking for from the board is just, a commitment to move forward with the idea that Wilmington has already spoken about this. They've requested that this topic go into a subcommittee of Bytown Housing that focuses only on this piece, which is the registration for this committee would meet, it would be made up of representatives from Dover and Wilmington, myself, Gretchen, there are inn owners and Airbnb owners and residents from Wilmington. We would have the same contingent from Dover to make sure that we're being represented from all sides. But basically what we're looking to do is be a part of this committee, to do the deep dive, to talk to the other communities that have gone through this registration process and figure out what the hurdles are. I sent the board a copy of the Killington ordinance that was passed. And that's a good one to look at, because we're not trying to overstep our bounds and do things like, limit when you can start a fire or any of those things. There are some towns that just go above and beyond when it comes to their Airbnbs. What we're trying to do is just set some basic ground rules, for those properties to kind of help level that playing field between those properties and say an inn or a lodge that is held to a much higher standard. Trying to address some of the parking problems, the complaints that we have on a regular basis, the party house issue, where a house is rented and then packed for a party. There's a number of issues that we're trying to address. Again, none of them are to shut an Airbnb down. It's just to try to get some regulation behind it, and allow for the public to have a space to be able to file an online complaint and have something, have some accountability for the property owners. So my request to you guys is that we get that permission to hop onto that committee and do the deep dive, so that we can come back to you with a complete and well-educated plan as to how to move forward with this process, hopefully in Dover.
Tabby comment.
Yes, even before Eric came in, I had been starting looking at this with the exact same oversight that Eric is. I'm totally in favor of us getting our hands wrapped around, and as town health officer, a frustration is short-term rentals are not currently under the rental housing health code. So by having a registration, having a way that we can hold those owners to be responsible for the health and safety, making sure they have the appropriate carbon monoxide, fire, appropriate egress. It then again puts them on a similar standing and holds them to that higher standard of an inn, a hotel, any type of rental housing, so that we can help protect both the renters who are coming to town and the owners of these properties.
Eric.
So just as a note, so Tabby's instance there, my goal here is that we don't want to have personal inspections for all of the properties, but it's some of the large, like, if you look at the Killington ordinance, what they've done is, over a certain amount of beds in a space would then require like a visit from the state fire marshal. I think it was like 10 beds or something like that.
And it would limit, the Killington one limits the amount of the people who can actually stay in the house.
Exactly, based on the number of available sleeping spaces and things like that. So we're not trying to, again, we're not trying to go door to door and police Airbnbs, and realistically, Granicus was the first company that we've spoken to. There are a number of companies that do this type of thing. So we would obviously, as part of our deeper dive, be looking at all of those companies for an idea of what they can provide. But then the benefit of going with an external company like this who has experience in doing this is that it takes it off of our plate. This is not something that we would have to manage. We're not the ones combing Airbnb every day to make sure somebody is registered or has paid. On the paying front, we're not talking millions of dollars a year in a registration fee. The average, the recommended fee for a 1-year registration through Granicus was, the average 2-night stay in the town of Dover. We're saying even the average cost of a 1-night stay in the town of Dover to be registered for the entire year. And that it solves a number of our problems all right off the top. So we really want to take that deep dive. We want to be educated. We want to make sure that what we provide to you guys is not only what we're being given from someone who's trying to sell us.
Sarah had her hand up first.
I was just gonna say, I think that by creating a structure, it doesn't require Tabby to go and inspect everything. It gives her the mechanism to address a complaint.
And right there, when you look at the Division of Fire Safety, they have 2 different forms that are self-certifications that they request or require for Airbnb owners to check off. Do you have this? It's on the owner of that property. So by going through this registration, we could say, you must submit your self-certification letter. We'll have a copy of it, or we'll have access to that. So we will have a better group of information. So should there be a complaint, is it specious, is it legit? Do we need to call the fire marshal because there's a serious issue? Is it, has the septic system blown out? So these are the kinds of things that will give us a better overview of not only what the parcels are, but who the owners are and who's the responsible party to contact.
Dan,
If I'm not mistaken, I had a friend who did a bed and breakfast. And before he could do it, Brian Johnson came, changed the door so that they opened out, had fire and so forth. Why would it be different with Airbnb versus bed and breakfast when it's the same concept?
Eric.
Occupancy. So realistically, I mean, like I said, anything with a large number of beds, they would come and do that similar to an Airbnb, or if they're listed, like a hotel would have that same type of requirement. With something like a condo where it's like a 1-room or 2-room, they're not, that requirement isn't there. Go ahead, Kathy.
So just, well, hold on. Wait, are you done?
Yeah.
I saw Tabby's hand up first.
Now, just to help answer Dan's question, a B&B is under a different zoning structure and under a different rental structure. Airbnbs are most often single-family homes or condos. Originally, the concept was to be owner occupied and rent out a room. That has changed as the years have gone by. But a B&B is under the same structure as a B&B, an inn, a hotel, and requires a different level of overview by whether it's Brian Johnson, the Division of Fire Safety. So helping bring the Airbnbs up to that level of safety is kind of one of the things that we can use this.
Well, I was gonna say, most of the condos already meet those standards. They had to before they could get
Exactly,
their
but
occupancy.
Single family.
So single family
don't.
Okay, can I just see if Scott or Joe have any comments, because I haven't heard it all from them? Scott or Joe? Are you good?
Yeah, we're fine. So,
Joe,
looking forward with looking into this is good.
are you there, Joe?
I'm good with looking. Yes, I'm here. I'm
Okay,
good at looking at whatever type thing.
Yes, Eric.
So just, I wanted to touch base, the accountability piece comes in where if a neighbor, say there's a problem house that's constantly having complaints filed against them. You know, Randy's constantly out there with his guys and things like that. With Granicus and the companies like them, they have the ability, you know, upon multiple violations and written warnings given to these property owners to actually remove those properties from these short-term rental sites. So it really does start to hold these property owners accountable for how they're using their property. And it's not something we want to do, but it's a mechanism that allows us to remove the problem when it's a problem.
Yes.
My name is Kristen Mumford. I'm the president of the Spring Hill Estates Association. And we have one of these problem houses in our neighborhood. It's subsequently been sold and not a problem anymore. We have huge fear in our neighborhood this is going to happen again because all of the properties in our neighborhood are over 4,500 square feet for the most part, and are advertised as party houses. So we're actually going a step further. We're actually going to have people will have to register to rent these properties. So I'm really excited that the town is consider taking action, because we didn't have any recourse. We're like, what are we gonna do? Go out and like try to collect $50 when somebody does a violation, or we have to have Randy come up like, that's not how you guys want your police force. So it's very exciting here that the town is considering.
And I just want to say in all transparency, I am a member of the Bytown Housing, and so I've been involved in a lot of these conversations about it. And this has been a long time coming, but we feel that we need to work with Wilmington because it's really about valley-wide. So we want to try to pair as much as we can with them. And interestingly, Gretchen Haverluck, who is the economic development consultant for the town of Wilmington, she did an analysis, and most of the houses that are being rented on Airbnb are gigantic houses, just like you. So a lot of people, everybody's coming in. It's not a 2-bedroom. It's not a 1-bedroom. It's not even a 3-bedroom. They're like 5, 6, 7-bedroom homes. So yeah. So this is I'm personally speaking in support of this because this is just asking for this subgroup to really come out with all the information, look at various companies, look at various options, look at a lot of the other, what other towns are doing, and just try to water it down to, get it down to something that we think that we could potentially use as a registration model for this community. So
what motion are we looking to?
no, we're not even, I don't think it's even a motion.
Yet? Okay.
That we will just ask through the Bytown Housing Subcommittee to ask and our Economic Development Department will be involved in it to do the work and bring it back to both towns. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Are we good with economic development? That was less than an hour.
I know.
Entertain a motion to go in the Board of Liquor Control.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have a special event permit for the Wine and Harvest for Snow Republic Brewery and SC Distillation LLC, DBA Village Garage Distillery.
I make a motion that we approve the special event permits for the Wine and Harvest Festival for Snow Republic Brewery and SC Distillation LLC, DBA Village Garage Distillery.
Second. Any comments?
Aye.
Again, more wine and harvest people. Okay, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, that's unanimous.
I make a motion that we approve the first, third, and outside consumption permit for Mountaineer OPS LLC, DBA, the Mountaineer Inn.
Second. Any thumbs up from Chief Johnson? Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. So there should be 2 signature pages in here for the Mountaineer, and the Mountaineer has new owners.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
They've never, previous owners never.
Motion to come out of Board of Liquor Control.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, we're moving on to the consent agenda. We need to approve the minutes of August 16th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Everybody was there. I had brought a copy. I think everybody was here.
Aye.
Everybody was here? The motion in a second has been made. Any changes or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have to approve and that's unanimous too, approve the warrants of August 20th, 2022 for $167,987.93. And from September 3rd, 2022 for $175,514.23.
Move that has everybody read both?
Yeah.
Can we move them together?
I have read them.
Okay.
We can move forward.
Well, motion to approve the warrants of August 20th, 2022 for $161,987.93 and September 3rd for $175,514.23.
Second.
Any comments? I have a comment. Dan, actually, it's the Dover Historical Society. Gretchen Fagg is still your,
Yes,
even though she lives in Maine?
she's here for a minute.
Oh, she comes for meetings. Wow. Okay, I was surprised because I know she's moved out of state.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's it.
Her son still has the property.
I know.
Just so you.
Okay,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Scott, aye.
Aye, sorry.
Okay, 5-0. There you go. Okay, we have FYI. We have the Planning Commission meets on September 12th at 6:30 PM. We have the Trails and Rec Committee next Tuesday, September 13th at 6:30 PM. We have open mic night on Wednesday of next week, September 14th at 6 PM at Dover Town Hall. We have a lot of things going on.
Yes, busy week.
Well, the Planning Commission, they meet by Zoom, or you guys use everybody's?
We're half and half,
We're hybrid.
hybrid.
It says they're both the same. Oh, so this wants to be Monday. Okay, so we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday already. Can we do Thursday? I don't know.
No.
Letter from Windham Central Supervisory Union, looking for community representatives for a superintendent search. Has everybody seen that?
Yeah. 'Cause I'm like,
Mhm.
sitting around for one.
Yeah. So if anybody's interested in being on a search committee for a new Windham Central superintendent.
Yeah.
Read it in the Valley News. Anybody's interested, you're urged to contact Bill Anton. So he's heading up her search committee.
Doesn't have to
And
just be people sitting at this table. Y'all are welcome.
there's Dover local hazard mitigation plan out for the public comment until September 16th. And the cell coverage mapping survey is available until September 30th. So that's if you find dead spots, they're encouraging you to call in or email in and dead spots.
Well, you have to find them and then you have to go somewhere and then tell us about them.
So that's what that's about. They're trying to build a database of dead spots. Which they will then try to sell to other cell carriers, so.
That's on social media and
And we'll be able to do that. So, do we have any liaison reports? We are not having any you do?
No, I'm just looking at my liaison.
We are not having an executive session for contractual matters. That will happen under open session on the September 20th meeting. So that is not going to happen. Anything else? Hearing none, I adjourn this meeting at 8:23. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for staying. Is this the